I was sitting in my home office, but it didn't feel like home anymore. The books were still on the shelves. The air conditioner still hummed softly. Everything looked the same, but something inside me felt wrong. Like a small warning in my chest I couldn't explain. Rachel had left an hour earlier. She said she was going on a wellness retreat. That was her latest obsession: yoga weekends, detox smoothies, and vague quotes about finding yourself posted on her Instagram story. She never invited me. She didn't even ask if I wanted to come. That had become normal now. We had been married for 10 years. But lately, the silence between us had turned cold. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that felt like walking through fog. You could speak, but your voice would disappear. She would sit at the dinner table, smile politely, and say almost nothing. I'd ask how her day was, and she'd just nod or shrug. Last night, she wore that silk robe, the one she always put on when she wanted something. She sat across from me, barely touching her food, looking like she was rehearsing a role instead of having dinner with her husband. She hadn't said it yet, but I knew. Something was coming. And this morning, I saw it. An envelope on my desk. Thick paper. Delivered by a private courier. No note. No emotion. Just the name of a fancy law firm on the top corner. I opened it with steady hands. Inside, divorce papers. Her demands were bold. She wanted the house, which I bought before we were even married. She wanted the car, the new SUV I gifted her last year. She even wanted Max, our dog, who sat beside me every night and followed me everywhere like a shadow. But the part that got to me most wasn't the greed. It was the confidence. She acted like it was all already hers, as if she believed I would give up, sign the papers, and quietly disappear from my own life. She didn't know me at all. That evening, Rachel came back home earlier than expected. No yoga mat, no calm energy, just tension in her face and that fake softness in her voice. We sat in the living room, her chosen stage. She gave the same speech I'd heard in different ways before. I've lost myself, she began quietly. This marriage, it doesn't make me feel seen anymore. She said it slowly, with a sad voice and watery eyes. But everything felt, acted, every pause, every breath, every glance down, rehearsed like a show. I didn't say a word. I just watched her, really watched her, and realized something. She wasn't breaking down. She was performing. And when she finally finished, lightly dabbing her eyes with the tissue like a talk show guest, I leaned forward and said calmly, "You already had the papers delivered." She froze. Her hand stopped mid-dab. Then she gave me a small, practiced smile. "I thought it would be easier this way," she said softly. I nodded once. No shouting. No fight. But inside, something had changed. Not sadness. Not even anger. Something colder. Something sharper. Because this wasn't just the end of our marriage. It was the start of something else. And she had no idea. I had already seen her first move, and I was ready for the next. Rachel leaned back on the couch, like she was exhausted from telling her story. But the room wasn't heavy with emotion. It was controlled. Just like everything else in her life. "I'm not asking for much," she said, folding her arms gently. "Just what's fair." I glanced at the divorce papers still sitting on the table between us. The house, the new car, alimony payments, large ones, and Max, the dog who followed me from room to room and barely looked at her anymore. She crossed her legs, tilted her head, and smiled like she was offering me a good deal. "I think it's a reasonable place to start." I looked at her calmly and repeated her words back. "A starting point." Then I stood up without saying more. I walked into my office. Behind my desk was a safe, one she always pretended not to notice. I opened it and pulled out a thin, simple envelope. Nothing fancy, no golden stamp, no elegant font, just plain white paper. I walked back and placed it gently on the table, sliding it toward her. She looked at it like it might bite her. "What's this?" she asked. "Open it," I said. She hesitated, then picked it up with slow fingers. As she began to read, her expression changed. First confusion, then realization, then fear. "This is," she whispered, eyes flicking across the pages. "The prenuptial agreement," I said quietly. "Signed, witnessed, filed." Her hands trembled slightly as she flipped through it. "But, we talked about this years ago," she said. "You said it didn't matter anymore." "You cried." You ripped up the extra copy I left on the counter, I said, my voice calm. And I let you think it was gone. Her voice changed, sharper now. You lied to me. No, I replied. You assumed. I just didn't correct you. She flipped faster through the pages now, searching for a loophole, anything she could twist. But it was all there, crystal clear. What's mine stays mine. What we earned together would be split fairly. Limited spousal support, for a short period. No mention of shared pets. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You said love didn't need contracts. No, I said. You said that. And I didn't argue. But I never stopped protecting myself. She looked up at me, eyes burning now. Not with sadness. With rage. You planned this. All of this. I leaned back, steady. No. I just didn't forget who I married. The silence between us changed. It wasn't quiet anymore. It was sharp. Max, who had been dozing on the rug, sat up. His ears perked. Even he could feel it. Rachel placed the agreement back on the table slowly, like she was handing over a weapon she had just discovered wasn't hers. You'll regret this, she said. I gave her a tired, honest smile. No, I regret not showing it to you sooner. She didn't say another word. She just stood up and left the room. Not defeated, not emotional, just calculating her next move. But I already knew. This wasn't the end. It was only her opening act. And I wasn't going to play my part in her script. At first, it seemed like maybe Rachel had accepted it. She stopped texting. No late-night messages. No calls pretending to be confused or sad. No, what about Max? Emails. For a few days, everything went quiet. But silence doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes, silence means planning. And Rachel? She wasn't giving up. She was getting ready. It started small. Friends stopped calling. One couple we used to meet for dinner suddenly got busy every time I texted. A few mutual friends sent strange, polite messages that didn't really say anything. One even unfollowed me on social media, something I wouldn't have noticed, except they followed Rachel twice. Then I heard the stories. Apparently, I had been emotionally distant. I worked too much. Rachel had sacrificed everything for our life together. And now, poor Rachel was left with nothing, while I, the cold, selfish husband, moved on without guilt. She didn't come at me directly. She didn't need to. She let the whispers do the work. Every quiet pause between two people talking. Every awkward smile when I entered a room. It all said the same thing. Have you heard what she's going through? I didn't respond. Not online. Not in person. Not even when someone posted a sad face comment under one of her healing journey posts. Instead, I stayed quiet and focused on the truth. Because while Rachel was building stories, I was building something else. Evidence. I had already hired someone. A professional. Not the kind that shows up with sunglasses and a trench coat. A quiet, smart private investigator named John. Calm, polite, and very, very good at his job. 3 weeks later, he handed me a file. It wasn't thick, but it didn't need to be. Inside were photos, dates, times, places. Rachel wasn't going to a yoga retreat. She wasn't hiking or journaling or learning to love herself again. She was with Damien, her wellness coach. The same guy she once mentioned in passing, tan skin, protein shakes, always smiling too hard. A guy I never trusted, even when she said he was just helping her with breathing exercises. John had caught them at hotels, at restaurants, at a brunch, the day before she served me the divorce papers. It wasn't just cheating. It was bold, planned, strategic. Rachel didn't just want to leave. She wanted to win. But she didn't know. I already had the checkmate in my pocket. I didn't post anything. I didn't scream. I didn't call her parents. I didn't even send her the photos. I gave the file to Ron, my lawyer. A man who spoke like a teacher and fought like a soldier in a courtroom. We'll use this if we have to, Ron said, flipping through the pictures without even blinking. Let her push first. And she did. Rachel's lawyer, a slick guy named Craig who looked like a late-night TV ad for cheap lawsuits, filed a motion. He claimed the prenuptial agreement was unfair. He called it emotionally manipulative and one-sided. He said Rachel had been pressured into signing it, and that it should be thrown out. Then came the threats. Letters, emails, demands. All of them loud. All of them messy. Ron answered with 3 things. A certified copy of the prenup. The PI report, clean, dated, and organized. An audio clip. That clip? Rachel's voice. Clear. Cold. I will ruin you if you don't give me what I want. I'll make sure everyone turns against you. You'll pay until I'm satisfied. When Ron played it for me the first time, I didn't flinch. I just nodded. This, he said, is more powerful than 10 witnesses. Rachel thought she was winning. She thought her silence was power, that the lies would hold. But the truth doesn't need to shout. It just waits. And when it speaks, it ends everything built on a lie. Rachel and her lawyer didn't back down. They pushed harder. Craig, her lawyer, the one with the expensive watch and oily smile, filed a request with the court to throw out the prenuptial agreement. His argument? It was unfair, emotionally abusive, manipulative in nature. He painted Rachel as a victim, a fragile woman who had trusted too much, given up too much, and now needed the court's protection. He wanted to break the prenup completely, to take away the one shield I had quietly kept for a decade. Ron wasn't surprised. He expected this. He always does. They'll keep pushing until we push back, he said. So we did. First, Ron sent the court a clean, certified copy of the prenup, signed, dated, witnessed, and filed years ago. The document was solid. Next came the private investigator's report, printed, labeled, and sealed. And finally, that audio clip. It was short, but brutal. Rachel's voice, angry, clear. I'll ruin you if you don't give me what I want. Everyone will hate you. You'll pay to make me go away. It was recorded legally. Our state allows it if one person knows about it. And I did. When Craig heard about the evidence, he went quiet for 2 days. But Rachel? She didn't stop. Instead, she switched to a different battlefield. Social media. Her Instagram became a steady stream of sad quotes and dramatic captions. Sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who hurt you deepest. Being strong means walking away with your soul still whole. Never regret choosing yourself. Her followers, mostly her yoga friends, wine night ladies, and sympathy collectors, flooded the comments. Proud of you, girl. You're glowing without him. Men never know what they lost. I didn't reply. I didn't post anything. Let her talk. Because the more she spoke, the more lies she told, and every lie gave us more proof. Screenshots, timelines, statements. Everything she tried to use against me was slowly becoming evidence against her. Her strategy was now obvious. Destroy my image. Get emotional. Force me to surrender just to make it stop. But what she didn't understand, I don't break under pressure. I design systems. And this time, the system was built for one goal. Truth. She still lived in the house. Even though the prenup was already confirmed. Even though her lawyer knew we had more evidence than they could answer. Even though her story was falling apart. She refused to leave. And then, she made her boldest move yet. She moved Damien in. Yes, that Damien. The wellness coach. The friend from the photos. The man she swore had nothing to do with any of this. He started using my things. Drinking my whiskey. Rearranging my furniture. She even posted a picture, feet up on my coffee table, with a caption that read, "Fresh starts begin where honesty lives." It didn't make me angry. It just made things very, very clear. They thought I'd stay quiet. They thought they could rewrite the story. But I was done watching. It was time to respond. Not with emotion, not with rage, but with the one thing that never loses in the end. Facts. I gave her 60 days. 60 polite, legally written days to move out. Ron sent the notice. Calm, professional, and clear. Rachel didn't respond. She didn't ask questions. She didn't even pretend to argue. She just ignored it, like the rules didn't apply to her. Instead, she made herself more comfortable. And worse, she made Damien comfortable, too. They acted like the house was theirs. He used my espresso machine. She moved books off my shelves and replaced them with candles and fake plants. They laughed in my kitchen, posted photos in my living room, and tagged #NewBeginnings from my address. It wasn't just disrespectful. It was deliberate. Rachel wanted to push me. She wanted a reaction. Maybe even a mistake, something she could twist into a weapon. But I didn't react. I acted. When the 60 days ended, Ron sent a second letter. This time, it wasn't a suggestion. It was a formal notice to vacate, with court approval ready to follow. Still no reply. So I got in my car and drove over. It had been months since I stepped inside that house. The second I opened the door, I knew everything had changed. It smelled like someone else's life now. Candles I didn't recognize, cheap cologne, air fresheners trying to cover something fake. Rachel was on the couch, barefoot, wrapped in a soft blanket that didn't belong to her or me. Damien sat next to her, sipping from a glass of my best whiskey, the bottle I was saving for a real moment worth remembering. I didn't speak to him. I looked straight at her. The notice I sent wasn't optional, I said calmly. Rachel leaned back, pretending to be relaxed. Her smile was tight. My lawyer says I have every right to stay until the court makes a decision. This isn't your home anymore, I replied. You made that clear the moment you handed me those divorce papers. That's when Damien decided to open his mouth. Hey man, show some respect. I turned my head, slowly, and met his eyes. Cold. Steady. You're trespassing, I said quietly. Leave. He paused, looked at Rachel, waiting for her signal. She said nothing. She just stared at her drink like it held the answer. So Damien stood up and walked out. No fight. No words. Just silence. Rachel stayed sitting. You're really doing this? She whispered. I nodded once. No, Rachel. You did this. I'm just finishing what you started. She didn't speak again that night. She didn't beg. She didn't cry. She didn't explain. She just sat there. And I walked out of my old house like it was already someone else's. 1 week later, Ron got a new letter from her lawyer. This time, it was polite. No threats. No bold demands. Just a quiet offer. If the house is transferred to Rachel, she will waive all further claims. They called it a peace offering. I called it a final bluff. Because they still didn't understand one thing. I had already made peace. And it didn't include giving her anything she hadn't earned. The envelope came on a Thursday morning. Ron called me the second he read it. His voice was calm, too calm. She filed a restraining order, he said. I didn't react. She says you're unstable, that you came to the house uninvited, that you threatened her and made her fear for her safety. Still no emotion from me. I just said, she's playing the last card in the deck. Ron sighed. Yeah, the drama card. 2 weeks later, we stood in court. No big crowd. Just quiet professionals sitting in suits, flipping papers. The judge was an older woman with sharp eyes and zero patience for nonsense. Rachel sat on the other side of the room beside Craig, her lawyer, dressed in a beige sweater and soft makeup. She looked like she was auditioning for a sad movie. She didn't look at me once. Craig stood up and started speaking like a man who thought he was the star of the show. Your Honor, my client has endured emotional intimidation, fear, and harassment. She no longer feels safe in the home she once loved. He paused often, as if giving the judge space to cry. She didn't. She just looked at Ron. And Ron. He didn't perform. He simply stood, nodded, and handed the judge 3 documents. 1. The deed to the house, in my name, bought years before the marriage. 2. The full private investigator report, with photos and dates showing Rachel and Damien during the exact time she claimed she feared me. 3. An audio recording. The judge pressed a button. The courtroom speakers came to life. Rachel's voice filled the room. I will ruin your life, Zach. You'll regret not giving me what I want. I'll drag you through the mud and make you pay. Clear. Calm. Cold. No edits. No doubt. The judge didn't say anything right away. She just looked down at her notes. Then at Craig. And then, she dismissed the restraining order. With prejudice. That meant Rachel couldn't file the same claim again, ever. Then the judge gave Craig a short but brutal speech about wasting the court's time. About abusing the legal system. About how real victims suffer when people like Rachel play games. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But in that quiet courtroom, it felt louder than any scream. Rachel shrank into her chair. Her face pale. Her eyes dark. Her act exposed. She left the courtroom without looking back. Ron leaned over and whispered, "Checkmate." But I didn't smile. I didn't feel like I had won. I just felt done. One more battle was over. And the only thing left standing was the truth. The final divorce papers came in an email. No hearing. No goodbye. Just the subject line. Final judgment. Zachary Wells versus Rachel Wells. It was quiet. Too quiet for something that had cost nearly a year of stress, silence, and survival. I opened the file. Cold language. Legal words. A few lines that ended a 10-year marriage with the click of a button. Rachel got exactly what the prenup allowed. A short-term alimony package, enough for 12 months. The SUV she drove. Her personal items, which I had already packed and placed in a storage unit 6 months ago. I even paid the rent for it through the end of the year. Not out of kindness, just so there'd be no excuse for her to come back. She didn't. Not to the house. Not to me. Not even to Max. Weeks passed. One afternoon, I got a call from Samantha, an old friend from our social circle. She always stayed neutral, never picking sides. "Zach," she said softly, "I thought you should know. Rachel called me." I waited. "She asked for money," she said. Said it was just temporary. But she didn't sound right. She sounded lost. I didn't feel anything. No anger. No satisfaction. No old emotions rising up. Just space. Then Samantha added. Her parents called too. Told her to get a job. They're worried. Rachel had a business degree, but a decade of skipping real life, living on social media, playing roles, had left her with little she could use now. The world had moved on. And so had I. A few days later, I saw her by accident. I was driving through a quiet street, one I usually avoided. And there she was, walking out of a grocery store. No makeup, no designer coat, just 2 plastic bags in her hands, and her hair pulled back in a loose knot. Her shoulders were hunched, not from the weight of the bags, but from something heavier. She didn't see me, and I didn't wave. I didn't stop. I didn't honk. I didn't say anything clever. Because for the first time, I felt nothing. Not revenge. Not bitterness. Not even pride. Just peace. That moment, quiet, unnoticed, was the real ending. Not the court dates. Not the emails. Not the signed papers. This. The stillness inside my chest. The sound of a door closing behind me and staying closed. I sold the house. Too many ghosts lived in the walls. Too many memories trying to wear disguises. It looked perfect from the outside, but inside, it was hollow. I didn't want to remember anymore. So I left. I bought a small home near the edge of the mountains. No marble countertops. No show-home furniture. Just warm wooden floors, tall trees, and real silence. The kind that doesn't feel empty. The kind that feels earned. Max adjusted right away. He patrols the yard like a proud little guard, barking at birds and carrying sticks way too big for his mouth. I think he's happier here. I know I am. The air smells different out here. Like pine. Like rain. Like second chances. No emails. No lawyer letters. No sudden messages meant to hurt me. Just mornings with hot coffee, Max at my feet, and a phone that doesn't buzz with chaos. I still hear updates sometimes. Through friends. By accident. Rachel never found her fresh start. The blog she started, where she tried to play the broken heroine, disappeared after a legal warning from Ron. Her lawyer dropped her. Damien vanished, probably the moment the free ride ended. Her last public post was a quote. Sometimes you lose everything just before you find yourself. But from what I've heard, even she doesn't believe it anymore. I don't hate her. I don't love her either. I just let her go. Fully. Finally. And in that space, I found something I hadn't felt in years. Not victory. Peace. True peace doesn't arrive with applause or celebration. It shows up in the quiet. In the way the wind moves through the trees. In the quiet sound of your own breath when nobody is asking for more of you. It shows up when you realize no one can take this peace away because it wasn't given. It was built through truth, through endurance, through the quiet strength of walking away without becoming the villain they claimed you were. I didn't destroy Rachel. She did that all by herself. I just stopped cleaning up after the collapse. And that's the best freedom I've ever known. Enjoyed the story? Give it a like and let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. More powerful stories are just around the corner.